Chosen one, this moment is not a coincidence. Your soul was drawn to this video because the heavens whispered the same message to you 7 times. The number 1111 didn't appear before your eyes for nothing, and the prayers of 33 prophets did not fall upon you by chance. You are one of the 144,000 chosen, and your presence here is a divine sign. This message was sent to awaken the secret that has been resting within your heart. What you are about to hear are not just words, but divine vibrations that will sink deep into your soul. If these words are touching you, leave your heart in the comments so the heavens can witness your testimony. Because when you write, another soul will awaken. Now prepare yourself, for this video will illuminate your path. Those who recognize the signs of God know that nothing is random. That's why your being here is already a miracle. The word spreads through you. Share this video, subscribe to Chosen Archangel, and let us rise together until we hit 1,000. They couldn't kill you, so they're going to jail. However, God can take theirs at any time. And heaven's lightning bolt is already hitting, and that divine hourglass just ran out. Handcuffs have been placed on the identical hands that attempted to dig your grave. The same lips who uttered the words your destruction are now begging for forgiveness, although they never did. The exact forces that they believed would ensure your demise have turned into the very tools that will keep them imprisoned forever. Heaven was planning the most complex counter-operation in spiritual history while they toasted what they perceived to be your permanent banishment from importance in secret boardrooms. They were rerouting, weaponizing, and turning every attack they made on you into evidence to support their own case. Even though you were never on their board, they believed they were playing chess. You were working from a dimension they were unable to enter, shielded by powers they would not recognize. It is astounding how wonderful the irony is. Unaware that your existence wasn't created by humans, they attempted to destroy a soul that was divinely endowed with immortality. Being liked, accepted, or even tolerated was not your purpose in life. You were given a task. There was a reason you were in their life. The deployment was divine. The test was you. They took the mirror without realizing it. The catalyst that would reveal everything was unavoidable. They put a lot of effort into staying buried. Observe how flawlessly this plays out. In an attempt to keep their carnal control, they broke cosmic law. They attempted to manipulate heavenly order to suit their own ends, which was against universal principles. Every plan they came up with, every falsehood they disseminated, and every spiritual assault they carried out was an act of rebellion against the rules that govern reality itself. Furthermore, the result is always certain when mortals start war on immortal ideals. The time is the only thing that is concealed. You never had to defend yourself, so you never did. You maintained your connection to the source of all power while others wore themselves out with intricate schemes and rites held at midnight. You weren't submitting by remaining silent. It was assurance. You weren't naive, you were at peace in their disarray. The insulation was wonderful. In fact, they were demonstrating your magical protection more and more each time they increased their pressure and intensified their attacks. The selected one is already visible in the initial fractures. Take note of the distance being created by their erstwhile allies. How selective amnesia over their associations is suddenly striking their most devoted defenders. This is not an accident. As spiritual awareness starts to pierce even the most resolute consciences, this is the preservation instinct taking over. Before their brains can grasp it, they are already feeling what is about to happen. Those who once believed whatever they said are now doubting their veracity. Their claims are now being fact-checked by the same networks that spread their lies. They are currently being investigated by the same systems that shielded their malfeasance. Human justice isn't catching up here. This is the reaffirmation of divine order via all accessible means. Invisible hands are forcing open every door they attempt to close. Supernatural archaeology is unearthing every narrative they try to conceal. Forces they cannot see, comprehend, and most definitely cannot control are dismantling every partnership they rely on. They are witnessing the methodical destruction of everything they have manipulated. Furthermore, their earthly power is powerless to halt it. Now the fear is beginning to sink in. The kind of fear that arises when someone understands they have been fighting forces they cannot comprehend, not the kind that comes from outside dangers. They believed that they were merely dealing with another individual that they could eliminate using traditional methods. They were unaware that they were up against the creator of reality itself. This is more than just your vindication. Cosmic correction is what's happening. By eliminating hindrances to divine order and realigning the spiritual infrastructure that was tainted by their meddling, the cosmos is rebalancing itself. They are returning all of the positions they stole to their proper owners. With compound interest, they are reopening every possibility they blocked. They are purifying or substituting something immeasurably greater for every relationship they contaminate. What they believe to be intelligence is being shown as complex self-deception. The networks of mutual destruction that they thought made them untouchable are now being revealed. Their own spiritual weapons are turning against them, and the rituals they used to keep their dominance are backfiring with terrible accuracy. They signed commitments they didn't comprehend and borrowed power they couldn't afford. Additionally, their spirits are currently being foreclosed by supernatural collection agencies. You weren't being destroyed by their attacks. You were being promoted. You have to grow in spiritual awareness with each trap they placed. Every falsehood they propagated about you gave the truth a chance to prove its superiority. Every door they attempted to shut led to areas they were unaware of. They believed they were ruining your future, but in reality, they were accelerating your rise. However, this transcends the selected one's earthly repercussions. The spiritual world is reacting with never-before-seen vigor. The ancient principalities that once provided protection for their operations are now removing that protection. Demon entities who once collaborated and provided intelligence are now betraying their old human counterparts. The entire supernatural apparatus that underpinned their plot is disintegrating from the inside out, exposing them to punishment from which they believed they had long since fled. Divine surveillance becomes public at this hour. They are unable to regulate or prevent the channels that broadcast every coded discussion, secret meeting, and blood oath taken in secrecy. Evidence of their own misconduct is now being amplified by the same technologies they used to disseminate false information about you. Documentaries about their atrocities are now available on the same media outlets that earlier propagated their lies. They are not merely physically restrained by their handcuffs. They're liberating spiritual emblems. They are transferring each chain they put on your progress to their wrists. They are turning every cage they constructed for your influence into a prison cell. They are turning every grave they dug for your reputation into a public cemetery. It reads like divine literature because the poetic justice is so flawless. The same people who disparage you are now too afraid to say anything. They are now signing their own guilty pleas with shaking hands, the same hands that signed your character assassination orders. The same brains that planned your methodical devastation are now preoccupied with damage control and legal tactics. They are too preoccupied with defending themselves to obstruct your rise. Their attacks didn't merely end your innocence. They became testimonials as a result. Their ability to be dishonest is now demonstrated by every lie they have ever uttered about you. Their criminal purpose is now demonstrated by every plan they devised to harm you. Their occult methods are now documented in every spiritual onslaught they conducted. Being alive is more than just a personal triumph. The divine justice itself is vindicated by the cosmos. However, vindication is just the first option. Now, something much more potent than just cleansed names or rebuilt reputations is coming to light. This is a rise to such heights that your past hardships appear to be preparatory classes. The mechanisms that used to exclude you are now vying for your involvement. Now, the same industries that put you on a blacklist are reorganizing to support your goals. Now, the same towns who turned you away are frantically trying to win your favor. The sites they can no longer access are suddenly amplifying your voice, which they worked so hard to quiet. They have worked so hard to keep your influence in check, but now it is spreading into areas they will never be able to reach again. They tried to deplete all of your resources, but now they're increasing through ways they can't see or control. This is more than just recuperation. This is superhuman multiplication. Connections that are in line with your actual purpose are replacing every relationship they cut out of your life. Through surprising sources, all of the resources they blocked are being restored with interest. Stages with a worldwide reach are replacing every platform they denied you. Power is not just being redistributed. You can see your name appearing on numerous beneficiary lists. Those who fought their malfeasance are systematically gaining their prior positions of authority. They are redirecting their financial resources to causes that they attempted to undermine. Organizations dedicated to truth rather than propaganda are acquiring their media channels. We are on the way to 1,000 subscribers, and your action makes the difference. Subscribe, like, and comment to amplify the mission of Chosen Archangel. With you as one of its main beneficiaries, the entire system they created for evil is being used for good. This is where your actual strength comes to light. Selected 1. Power that transforms and raises, not power that destroys or manipulates. Influence based on truth and service, not power based on fear and control. No earthly force can take you off the throne that they attempted to keep you from reaching, since it is now yours by divine right. With compound interest, the same spiritual principles that they broke are now working in your favor. The same cosmic laws that they disregarded are now propelling you forward faster than they could have imagined. Your rule is now being established in ways that will be remembered for decades to come by the same divine justice that they derided. Unaware that they were actually helping to bring you to power, they spent years attempting to thwart your ascent. Not only are your adversaries vanquished, but they are also changed into uncontrollable manifestations of heavenly might. Every individual who sees their demise and your concurrent ascent becomes a living example of the existence of spiritual justice. Any system that shifts from their authority to your influence serves as an example of cosmic law. Your victories serve as evidence that human strength isn't always sufficient to win fights. Whoever controls all strength wins them. Their punishment and your vindication weren't the only aspects of this whole ordeal. It was intended to show the world that there are still forces at work that are immune to human manipulation, that moral reality is still governed by laws, and that justice is still present and never forgets anything. Your victory turns into a gleam of hope for everyone who has ever experienced betrayal, slandered or methodically dismantled by people who believed that having authority equated to immunity. In chambers of eternal justice, not earthly courtrooms, the circle completes itself with terrible beauty as the final gavel rings. Their last sentences are now being archived by the same heavenly surveillance that started documenting their crimes from the very beginning. It's true that the hands that attempted to dig your tomb were handcuffed. However, the spiritual ramifications go well beyond limitations of the body. Since your life was never theirs to take, they were unable to do so. However, the person who provided it to you has shown that he can quickly get it back. Through the straightforward application of cosmic law, not through force or retaliation. You get what you give. And when it happens, companions are brought along, friends who are universal, everlasting, have unrestricted power, and arrive at the ideal moment. This vindication doesn't mean the end of your narrative. It's just getting started. You are currently positioned atop the mountain by the same God who kept you safe through the valley. The same heaven that documented all wrongdoing is now planning your ascent. The same justice that brought down your adversaries is now creating your legacy in ways that will change the way that future generations perceive the interplay between divine authority and worldly power. Let's not sugarcoat it, though. The truth remains concealed. They're twisting it. It has been suppressed by fear, algorithms, and censorship. But your heart never ceased seeing reality. You're still here for that reason. You never tapped out because of this. Because the simulation glitch was felt underfoot. You're done waiting for approval to ascend, since you know that this world is crooked. The curious were not the target audience for the chosen Archangel Inner Order. For the dedicated, it was forged. This is for the full-time selected, the ones who arrive to take charge, the ones who see past appearances and take action regardless. Weekly Zoom calls that break through the clutter are held within. We impart lessons that most people were never supposed to hear. We receive training in spiritual technology, tactics, and mental warfare that they have kept secret for ages. The actual ones use this set of tools. It is difficult to eradicate the uncontrollable. Now is the moment to recall your identity. The description contains the URL. Your true life starts within. The current change is more profound than anything Hollywood could ever imagine. Selected 1. The tangible representation of judgments already rendered in dimensions they never thought existed is what physical courtrooms are. See how, like trained attack dogs realizing their true master, the very legal systems they believed they owned start to work against them. Formerly unconcerned prosecutors are now suddenly finding the guts to take on cases they thought were too difficult or politically delicate. There's more than just circumstantial evidence coming to light. It's irresistible, overwhelming, and precisely timed to fall during their weakest times. They are using almost miraculous means to restore bank records they believed had been lost forever. Technologies that seem to operate with heavenly inspiration are decoding digital communications that they thought were encrypted beyond detection. Voices they didn't realize they had are being discovered by witnesses they thought would never speak. What they cannot comprehend, they cannot fight. Their high-priced legal teams are running into problems that are hard to explain. Evidence shows up in unexpected places. Sources who ought to have remained silent now testify. They are suddenly being aggressively prosecuted by jurisdictions that ought to protect them. It seems as though the entire legal system has been rewired with irresistible momentum and new priorities. Their own weapons are being used against them, demonstrating the exquisite accuracy of this heavenly operation. Their illegal actions are now being recorded by the same monitoring networks that they employ to keep an eye on your activities. Prosecutors are now receiving comprehensive conspiracy evidence from the same communication systems they used to plan attacks against you. Forensic accountants, who appear to have nearly magical skills to track money through complex offshore accounts, are now tracking down the same financial methods they used to finance your destruction. In worlds they cannot see or control, something far more destructive is taking place while terrestrial authorities construct physical limits. The spiritual principalities that previously provided protection for their operations have taken that protection away entirely. They are not only being abandoned by ancient organizations that offered coordination and intellect. They are aggressively opposing them. Their conspiracy's supernatural backbone is evolving into a network of cosmic prosecutors. They are now broadcasting in the light every ceremony they carried out in the dark. Every ritual they used to stay in power is being revealed as proof of their occult activities. Their admission of spiritual treason is being exposed in every sacrifice they made to maintain their status. They were recording their disobedience to divine command, even though they believed they were calling out protection. Higher authority is voiding the agreements they made with dark powers. The interest on the spiritual debts they accrued during decades of corruption is compounding, making them unaffordable. Their preferred form of payment is souls rather than cash, and the demonic entities they have allied with are demanding fast settlement. They are learning that spiritual bankruptcy has repercussions that material affluence cannot lessen. It's a beautiful irony. They used planned psychological warfare for years in an attempt to push you to spiritual collapse. They are currently going through a genuine spiritual breakdown due to circumstances beyond their control. Destroy their sanity in a methodical manner. With exponential intensity, they are now using every weapon they used against your tranquility against their own minds. Another confession follows an arrest. Another investigation follows a confession. Another indictment follows one inquiry. Because it is being planned by intellect that simultaneously sees all links, comprehends all linkages, and has all proof, the cascading effect cannot be stopped. In order to unearth concealed crimes, human detectives are directed by supernatural knowledge that gives them the appearance of being almost prophetic. They are unable to understand the extent of the compromise of their communication networks. Forces that don't need authorization or warrants are watching every phone call, encrypted message, and ostensibly private encounter. The power behind divine surveillance transcends all earthly jurisdictions and technological constraints. They are unable to conceal themselves from eyes that simultaneously see through all dimensions. Their cases are being handled by prosecutors who are exhibiting a remarkable level of clarity and resolve. Evidence is arranging itself into patterns that cannot be disputed. The willingness of witnesses to cooperate is remarkable. Judges are constantly choosing justice over influence when rendering decisions. It seems as though the entire legal system has been imbued with extraordinary bravery and knowledge, rendering corruption unsustainable. However, the physical confinement is only the first step in their punishment. The spiritual ramifications go well beyond physical imprisonment. Their names will become synonymous with corruption because of how completely their reputations are being ruined. They are rewriting their histories to serve as warnings about the perils of defying divine authority. They are having their riches reallocated to causes they didn't support. Your clique is not small, it is part of a movement. Help us reach 1,000 voices by subscribing, liking, and leaving your word of faith in the comments. The people they tormented are receiving their authority. Their influence is being used for the things they aim to stop. Every job they obtained by deceit is now being filled by someone who merited it via honesty. They are rerouting all of the projects they funded through corruption to serve real humanitarian goals. Every organization that they used coercion to dominate is now free to carry out its intended purpose. Eliminating bad individuals is only one aspect of the structural shift taking place. It involves placing divine delegates in positions of power. They have created amplification systems they never thought were conceivable as a result of their attempts to stifle your voice. Global networks that spread your message to audiences they could never reach are taking the place of the platforms they refused you access to. Through avenues they are unable to watch over or intercept, the resources they denied you are being duplicated. Every blessing they attempted to obstruct is coming back with compound interest and unnatural speed. The effectiveness of divine justice is what makes it so lovely. Selected 1. It punishes more than simply the guilty. The innocent are also rewarded. It does more than merely clear the way. It opens doors. It reveals more than simply corruption. It establishes morality. Any action you take against your adversaries also serves to further your own development. Your promotion is more than just self-validation. It is an example of the cosmos. Every individual who sees their demise and your ascent at the same time becomes a living example of the existence of divine justice. Any system that shifts from their authority to your influence is proof of paranormal involvement. Every triumph you attain serves as evidence that spiritual principles have a more comprehensive influence on earthly outcomes than most people are willing to acknowledge. The punishments being meted out are not limited to worldly courts or actual prisons. They have been punished in ways they were unaware of. Areas where pardons are not available and appeals are not allowed. They must contend with justice that functions with perfect knowledge, unrestricted power, and an eternal viewpoint. The full truth is being used to judge every crime they commit in the dark. Your legacy of restoration is replacing their legacy of devastation. Supernatural resources are being used to rebuild every life they attempted to destroy. With divine power, they are reviving every dream they try to destroy. With divine support, every goal they strive to thwart is being achieved. The contrast between their demise and your ascent is a lasting reminder that cosmic justice exists. Since your life was never theirs to take, they were unable to do so. The universe's highest court approved of your being, sealed it with divine sanction, and gave it protection from forces that never fail, never slumber, and never tire. Their helplessness in the face of heaven's will is demonstrated by each breath you take. In the meantime, the one who gave you life has shown that he can quickly take it back. The only thing that has kept them alive in spite of their disobedience is the simple removal of divine protection, not bloodshed or retaliation. They have been living on borrowed time, breathing on grace they have deliberately resisted, and alive through mercy they have not earned. Now that the grace period has passed, the inevitable results of their decisions are becoming frighteningly evident. Greetings from your time of unquestionable dominance. Selected 1. Chambers of Eternal Justice have examined the surveillance footage. Judges who are not susceptible to intimidation or bribery have rendered the decision. Additionally, forces that are solely answerable to God have carried out the punishment. They will be imprisoned in both visible and invisible dimensions. As you soar to heights they could never attain, shielded by strength they never comprehended and strengthened by justice they never fled. The same jail doors that are closing behind them are also opening for your total freedom. The handcuffs holding their hands together represent the return of your freedom. The justification you've been waiting for is in the sentences they're serving. Divine justice is not limited to punishing disobedience. It replaces it with virtuous authority. The last word has been delivered by the courtroom of eternity, and its verdict echoes across the entire universe. Because heaven maintains flawless records, do not touch the anointed. Cosmic law always wins, and divine justice never rests. They couldn't kill you, but they were killed by life. This completes the big reversal. Your rule starts now, and the eternal verdict remains in effect. Not all of the facilities that await them are prisons. Their concrete reminders of the consequences of finite humans opposing infinite authority serve as monuments to divine justice. They'll have plenty of time to reflect on the scope of their error behind those concrete walls and steel bars. When conscience simultaneously takes on the roles of prosecutor, judge, and jury, no amount of commissary funds can buy serenity. There is a sense of abandonment surrounding each defendant as a result of their erstwhile colleagues' quick distance. No one answers the phone. Visitation lists are still blank. As bank accounts freeze due to asset forfeiture orders, legal fees mount. Their attempt to isolate you has turned into their own reality, made worse by the realization that your abandonment was never justified while theirs was. See how their chosen inmates' experience differs from that of other prisoners. Serving time isn't all that they are. They're acting as models. They are perceived differently by other inmates. Something that even seasoned criminals find unsettling. Sincere connections are unattainable because of the air of spiritual judgment that follows them through cafeterias and hallways. In addition to their sins, the supernatural repercussions that follow them like unseen bonds further isolate them. They are being treated by guards who are not only correctional officers. As ignorant representatives of divine justice, they make sure that every facet of their captivity contributes to the greater good of cosmic equilibrium. When dreams are interrupted by images of their victim's vindication, sleep does not provide rest. Meals don't make you feel better when your appetite is destroyed by guilt. When every free moment turns into a chance for sorrow to grow, recreation isn't a source of solace. Under heavenly inspection, their money, which they have amassed over decades of exploitation and deception, is dissipating more quickly than morning mist. Supernaturally intelligent forensic accountants are tracking down money in financial networks that would be perplexing to artificial intelligence. Authorities who appear to have heavenly passwords for every encrypted system are accessing offshore accounts they thought were unbreakable. Their stolen riches are being used to further the very causes they opposed, which heightens the wonderful irony. They are returning money they stole from nonprofits with interest that is impossible to calculate. They attempted to destroy humanitarian programs with the money they laundered through shell firms. Their financial empire, which they built on other people's pain, is now serving as the cornerstone for the healing they never meant to promote. They are receiving civil claims from victims they didn't know existed. People whose lives they ruined with such indifference that the harm hardly occurred to them. Each lawsuit adds a weight to the justice balances that are already swaying against them, in addition to the financial obligation. Class action lawyers are uncovering decades-long patterns of harm, resulting in legal exposure that much outweighs their net wealth. The financial effects of generational corruption are being felt by their families. To recompense victims, trust funds set up for their children are being taken. To pay judgment creditors, real estate bought with illicit money goes up for sale. Restitution payments, which will continue long after their deaths, are being financed through the sale of private aircraft, luxury cars, and art collections. Prison medical personnel are perplexed by the rates at which stress-related ailments are eating their bodies. While spiritual toxicity runs through their systems, conditions that ought to respond to treatment continue to be obstinately resistant, as though their bodily manifestations are refusing to heal. As physical evidence of the spiritual poison they have ingested through years of immorality, they develop anxiety attacks, stomach problems, high blood pressure, and insomnia. Under stress that medical science is unable to adequately explain, their minds are decaying or enjoy. Psychiatrists give drugs that don't alleviate the suffering that comes from dimensions that are outside the scope of pharmaceuticals. As skilled professionals face psychological damage that necessitates spiritual assistance they are ill-equipped to deliver, therapy sessions turn into pointless exercises. Chosen Archangel is not just a channel, it is a calling. Subscribe now, press like, and write a comment so together we can reach our 1,000 soul family. When heavenly protection is removed, the aging process speeds up significantly. Overnight, hair turns gray. Lines appear on the skin that did not exist before the sentence. Additionally, vitality dries up like water in a cracked vessel. As though time itself is working to squeeze their remaining earthly existence into the smallest possible period, they are going through what should take years in a matter of months. Their kids and grandkids are learning that being associated with their history has repercussions that go beyond societal shame. Inexplicably, opportunities that ought to be accessible based solely on qualifications are taken away. Schools that used to accept their family name are now carrying out more thorough background checks that uncover unsettling relationships. People with such surnames are suddenly being excluded from professional networks that transcend generations. They developed a spiritual contagion that disregards formal distinctions and bloodlines. Relationship troubles, health concerns, and inexplicable setbacks are being experienced by family members who were not directly involved in their crimes. Everyone within their sphere of influence seems to be impacted by the curse they placed upon themselves. Their families can only hope to escape the generational repercussions by fully abandoning their practices and exhibiting sincere remorse. Beyond the prison walls lies something even more terrible as their earthly sentences progress. They face punishments for their transgressions of heaven that are not enforceable by earthly courts. Conclusions that bodily death is unavoidable. Their present agony seems insignificant in compared to the eternal repercussions that the same divine power that planned their worldly demise has in store. Their identities are appearing in registrations kept in places they never recognized, and books they never knew existed. All instances of cruelty, malicious intent, and decisions to injure innocent people are being prepared as evidence for trials that will take place in courtrooms where there are no appeals and mercy must be gained via sincere change. However, even during their darkest moment, there is still one last chance for redemption through divine grace. Sincere repentance, full confession, and transformation could change their eternal course. However, such a change is becoming less likely due to pride that has been hardened by years of disobedience. They learned that prison bars may be bent more easily than hearts that have been hardened by years of defiance of heavenly power. The clock is running out on their final responsibility, selected one, while your promotion goes on unchecked. Their physical and spiritual captivity serves as a lasting reminder of the reality you've always understood. Although it may appear to be delayed, divine justice is always present. Since your life belongs to eternity, they couldn't take it, but theirs has undoubtedly been taken by eternity. Their story's last chapter is being written in orange jumpsuits and handcuffs, whereas yours is being written in golden ink on the triumph scrolls of paradise. Chosen one, remember this, heaven never sends a word without purpose. If this message has stirred your spirit, let it shine brighter. Press like so the light spreads to others walking in darkness. Subscribe to Chosen Archangel so you never miss the next divine revelation. And share your thoughts in the comments below. Your testimony may be the very spark that awakens another soul. Until we meet again, stay covered by the wings of heaven and walk boldly in your calling.